It was a cold, gray morning in a quiet suburban town. Emily tightened her scarf around her neck as she hurried down the street, her breath forming faint clouds in the chilly air. Her hands clutched a small lunchbox and an oversized purse, one carrying a peanut butter sandwich for her son and the other holding her daily worries, bills she couldn't pay, a broken-down car she couldn't afford to fix, and a job that barely kept her afloat. Dropping her 5-year-old son, Lucas, at daycare was always the hardest part of her day. His tiny fingers held onto hers for a moment too long before he finally let go. "Be good, Mommy," he said softly, as if he knew how hard she was trying. She kissed him on the forehead, smiled through the knot in her throat, and promised herself she wouldn't cry. Not today. The diner was only a few blocks away, but Emily felt like she was carrying the weight of the world on her shoulders. As she pushed open the heavy glass door, the sound of clinking plates and murmuring customers greeted her. Her boss, George, shot her a glance. "You're late again," he muttered, not unkindly, but with the exhaustion of someone who had seen too many employees like her. Emily apologized quickly and tied her apron around her waist, diving headfirst into the chaos of the morning rush. Half an hour into her shift, she noticed a man sitting alone at one of the corner booths. He wore a simple hoodie and jeans, his face partially obscured by the brim of a baseball cap. He looked like any other customer, scrolling on his phone and sipping coffee. Emily approached with her usual polite smile. "Good morning. What can I get for you?" The man looked up briefly, his piercing blue eyes catching hers for a moment. "Just coffee and a bagel," he said in a calm, almost soothing tone. "Coming right up," she replied, juggling 2 other orders in her head as she walked away. She didn't recognize him. Why would she? To her, he was just another regular customer. Emily didn't have time to dwell. A table of teenagers was complaining about their eggs being too runny, a family of 4 needed extra napkins, and George was yelling about a spill near the counter. She was doing her best to keep up when she noticed an elderly man at the register, fumbling with his wallet. He looked embarrassed, patting his coat pockets as if he might find a missing $20 bill there. Without a second thought, Emily grabbed her own tip jar and discreetly slipped a few bills into the register. The old man looked at her with watery eyes and whispered, "Thank you, miss. You didn't have to do that." Emily just smiled. "It's okay. Have a good day." She turned back to the chaos of the diner, not noticing the man in the hoodie watching the entire exchange. The man in the hoodie watched Emily as she darted from table to table, her face calm despite the stress she was clearly under. He saw her pause for a moment to catch her breath, her shoulders slumping slightly before she straightened up and smiled at a demanding customer. When Emily finally brought his order, she apologized. "Sorry for the delay. It's been a crazy morning." "No rush," he said with a small smile. "Take your time. I've been in your shoes before." His voice was kind, almost empathetic, but Emily barely registered it as she hurried off to another table. Minutes later, the quiet of the diner was shattered when a sharply dressed man at a nearby table slammed his fork down. "What kind of service is this?" he bellowed. "I've been waiting for 10 minutes." Emily hurried over, her face flushed. "I'm so sorry, sir. I'll get your order right away." "Sorry isn't good enough," the man snapped. "Maybe you should find another job if you can't handle this one." Before Emily could respond, the man in the hoodie spoke up, his voice firm but calm. "Good service takes time. Patience is a sign of intelligence. Maybe you should try it sometime." The rude customer turned to glare at him, but faltered under the steady gaze of those piercing blue eyes. Muttering under his breath, he grabbed his coat and stormed off, leaving Emily stunned. She looked at the man in the hoodie. "Thank you," she said softly. He shrugged. "Just calling it like I see it." The rest of the morning passed in a blur. Emily barely noticed when the man in the hoodie finished his bagel and coffee. He left the table quietly, but as she cleared it, she saw an envelope tucked under the empty coffee cup. Curious, she opened it and froze. Inside was a check for $10,000. Her hands trembled as she read the handwritten note. "This isn't just for you, it's for the kindness you showed today. Keep being amazing." For a moment she stood there, unable to move. Her heart raced as she looked around the diner, hoping to catch a glimpse of the man. But he was gone. Emily clutched the check as she walked into the kitchen, her legs feeling like jelly. She showed it to George, who stared at it in disbelief. "Do you know who that was?" he asked, his voice low. Emily shook her head. "That was Elon Musk," George said. Emily's mouth fell open. She couldn't believe it. The man who had sat quietly in the corner, who had defended her without hesitation, was one of the richest men in the world. News of the incident spread quickly. A fellow waitress posted a picture of the check and note on social media, and within hours the story had gone viral. Comments flooded in from strangers around the world, praising both Emily's kindness and Elon Musk's generosity. But Emily couldn't stop thinking about the note. She decided to write a thank you letter to Elon, pouring her heart out about how his gesture had changed her life. She sent it to the contact on the business card he'd left behind. To her surprise, she received a response within a day. The letter simply said, "You inspired me. Let's talk." A week later, Emily found herself standing outside a sleek office building, her hands shaking as she clutched the letter. She was ushered into a room where Elon Musk himself greeted her with a warm smile. "I don't usually follow up on things like this," he said, "but your story moved me. I want to help." Elon offered her a position at one of his companies, allowing her to work flexible hours so she could spend more time with Lucas. He also arranged for her to take courses to pursue her dream of owning a cafe. Months later, Emily stood behind the counter of her very own cafe, a place she had named Second Chances. On the opening day, Elon Musk walked in, carrying a small bouquet of flowers. "Your cafe looks amazing," he said, handing her a card. Emily opened it and smiled through her tears. The note read, "You turned your dreams into reality. Keep going."